Well, hello, it's Helena from Helena's Trini Kitchen. Today I'm going to make for you a stir-fried asparagus, pound plantains and sweet potatoes with garlic, and seared fish in wine sauce. I've put out all the ingredients on the countertop so you can see what I'll be using. So right on the left, there's wahoo and tuna, which is given to me by my next door neighbor, Eric. He's wonderful. He goes deep sea fishing and provides that all the time to me. Sweet potatoes, plantains, tomatoes, garlic, apples, celery, asparagus, bell peppers, baking powder, salt, Cajun spice, Mrs. Dash, and milk. So let's start prepping. The first thing I'm going to do is slice up that fish, wash it with lime or lemon, water, and drain it so that it's dry, and then put the marinade on it. So I've taken the fish out of the bags, and now I'm going to prep them for cooking. So I sliced that like 1/2 inch. Make it portion size. Cut it in half. That was the Ono Wahoo. It's lighter in color. And this is yellowtail. And it's okay to do different fish. You don't have to do all of the same, by the way. And you use what you have on hand also. These are fillet. Like so. These are a little bit thicker, so I'll cut them in 3 pieces, making them portion size. And the last piece, cut it in half, down the middle. And then 2 pieces. So I've picked 3 lemons from my sweet lemon tree. And I'm going to roll it. And rolling it breaks up the pulp in the lime of the lemon that you have and makes it much easier to get the juice out of it. Plus it smells really good. So I've added water to the bowl, and now I'm going to put the lemon. And I know it looks green, it's not ripe yet, into this fish, and then wash it basically, okay? Get the freshness off the fish. Put the other piece aside, and then I'm gonna just put it in the sink and drain it. Next, I'm going to season the fish. So, Mrs. Dash, salt, and some Cajun spice. And then I'm going to mix that really good. Add a little bit more. Because I want all of the pieces covered, not just some of them. So it should look like that. I'm going to cover that and let that sit to marinate. The fish was washed in the lemon water, drained, and marinated with salt, Cajun spice, and the Mrs. Dash. I'm going to cover that and let that sit, and then we'll work on the plantains and the sweet potatoes. Back to my kitchen. So the plantains and sweet potatoes with garlic is done, and here it is. I hope you enjoy it and that it tastes just as good as it does in my kitchen. So I've washed the plantain, cut off the edges, and now I'm going to cut them in two and put them in the pot with water and salt and put it on the stove to boil. When it's finished cooking, you will see them popping out of the skin, and I'll show you that once the process is done. When you're doing any kind of potatoes, you should have a pot with water, a bowl with water to put it in, because it will get brown, so you want them to remain, the color that they're supposed to be. So I've peeled them, so you go ahead and cut that up like you would a potato, regular potato, and you put it in the water with salt to boil. So whatever size you choose to cut it up, make sure that it's uniform, because you want it to cook all at the same time, so that some of it doesn't melt and some of it is half cooked, okay? 2 heads of garlic, and I've put them in the bowl, in the prep bowl, and I'm gonna coarsely ground them and then put them in the pot with the sweet potatoes to boil. Pot with the plantain and then the pot with the sweet potatoes and the garlic, both salted, are on the fire on a medium-high heat to come to a quick boil, and then I'll lower it to medium. The plantain is finished boiling. I took it off the fire, and you see how it's split open? So now I'm going to drain it, peel it, and take out the seeds from the middle of it. So what I do is I use a mitt with paper towel on top of it so that I can take off the skin and cut it in half. And then I just dump it into this bowl, and then it'll be all cooled off by the time I'm a little bit enough so that I can take out the seeds out of the middle of it. So the potatoes with the garlic is also finished cooking, so I've drained those and I've set it on top of a pot with a colander in it to completely drain all the water out of it. Here's where your paring knife comes in. So you're going to just cut along in the middle and take out the seeds like so, okay? Make sure you get all the seeds, and then you drop it back into the bowl. The sweet potatoes with garlic has been boiled. The plantain has been deseeded, and now we're gonna mash. I'm gonna pour olive oil on it. That'll be my fat, okay? Be very generous with it. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of baking powder that's right here to make it light once I'm done. So I've mashed the potatoes and the plantain, and it's not as garlicky as I'd like it. So I'm going to add a little bit more granulated garlic so that I can get it a little bit more savory. I want to taste the garlic in this dish. So I'm gonna mix that up. It's still warm, by the way, and that's when you want to mash this, when it is warm. I'm gonna add not a lot of milk, even though I have a cup, maybe a quarter of a cup, just to combine everything together. Because I want it not so heavy, I want it lighter than it is. So since it's mashed already, I really don't need the potato masher anymore. But I do want a tiny little bit more milk. So all total, I think I've used maybe a quarter of a cup of the milk that I had sitting out. Not much, just enough so that when I add the baking powder, it'll make it nice and light. Okay, so I'm going to put in about a spoonful of baking powder, and I'm going to mix that up. Combine that really well. And since it's warm, you will feel the lightness as you're combining it. Okay? There you have it from Hell. So I'm all set to make the asparagus now. So here I have some garlic that's sliced up, about 1 head, a little piece of ginger. Here's apples that I've sliced up, and I've used that half of a lemon that was remaining to put a little bit on the apple so it doesn't turn brown. The sweet onions that are sliced, and the asparagus that has been washed and cut off at the edges, so it's ready to go. I've added oil to the pot. So this is a flat bottom wok, which I love cooking in. And now I'm going to add the garlic to get that all brown. So I hope you're seeing inside the wok. And I'm putting the garlic in the oil just to permeate the garlic into the oil. And then I'm going to take the garlic out after it gets nice and brown and save it for garnishing once it's all done. So I've permeated the oil with the garlic, and I've put it on a paper towel to drain, and I'll use that to garnish after. Now the oil is hot, and I'm going to add in the ginger. And I'll let that permeate the oil a little bit, get the flavor in there. And it smells delicious, by the way. Next, I'm going to add in the onions. And we're going to cook that until it gets lucid, like clear. Turn up the flame. Because this is basically a stir fry. Next, I'm going to add in the apples. So I gave that a stir, and I've salted and added pepper for taste. And now I'm going to add in the asparagus. And basically we're going to stir fry this. This is why we like the flat bottom wok, because this is a pretty big one. And what we're looking for is just so that the asparagus gets a pretty green color after the fact, okay? Okay, that was about 5 to 10 minutes of stir frying. See how pretty and green that is? So now I'll just, put this in a dish, and it's all done. It's crispy, yet it's tender. And that's how you want it. You don't want the asparagus limp. Here's how I julienne bell pepper. I cut it in half. cut it down like that. Throw away that. And then I take out the white part in it because it's not very tasty. Get rid of the seeds. And then I cut it in julienne strips, okay? Just in case you didn't know the easiest way to do that. That is how you do it. I said de-seed, so you cut the tomatoes in half, and you take your finger, and you get the seeds out like so. Okay? Taking out the seeds. And then you're going to wash them again. And of course I washed them prior to cutting them open. Okay? So I did tell you that I'd like you to cut the scallions or green onions on a in a slant. So here's how to do that. Just like that, angle your knife so that you get a nice, some pretty slices. So when you go to plate your food, the vegetables, the seasonings in it will look pretty, like that. And I don't know if you can see that my knife is at an angle. It's not straight like this, but it's angled. Okay, time to cook the fish now. So I've put a pan on the fire. And I'm going to add olive oil, not a lot, just to the bottom, to coat the bottom so I can sear the fish. And I'm going to add a little garlic and a small piece of habanero pepper. You can see it on the side there. And I'm going to let that pan heat up and toast the garlic. Okay, so the oil is heated up and the garlic is toasting. And I also added a little piece of pepper in there to add my heat. So I'm going to now sear this fish on either side. And by the way, it's at room temperature, so I can literally put it in the pan and it's not going to splatter and burn me. Because remember, I've taken off most of the water is out of it. And we're going to let that sear for about 2 to 3 minutes and then flip it to the other side. Okay, so that was about 2 to 3 minutes, and now I'm flipping them to do the other side. Definitely don't want to overcook this because it'll be really hard. So. And then I'm going to take them out and put them in the pan right in the back of the pot. And then continue with this process until I've done all the pieces. So the fish is completed. It's right here. And I'm going to add the rest of the garlic to the pot now. And let me tilt that so you can see the browning in the pan. And that's what's going to add flavor to it. That's why you do the fish first so you can get the browning. Next we're going to add in the onion. And we're going to stir fry that in the olive oil. And you can see that it's getting brown, a nice pretty brown. And we're going to add in all our different colored bell peppers. And the flame, by the way, is a medium-high. And the tomatoes. Salt and pepper to taste. And then we add in the parsley, the green onions, and the celery leaves. And we're going to stir fry that. It was about a minute or two of cooking. And next we're going to add in wine. I just used about a quarter of a bottle. And we're going to let that simmer. So that's been cooking for about 3 minutes. I'm going to add a squeeze of lemon juice. This lemon is from my garden, by the way. And then stir. Since I use Chardonnay and it's pretty dry, I added a pinch of sugar to it because it was really, really dry. Okay? So I've added the fish back into the sauce. And I'm mixing it up. And I'm tasting now for salt. Acid, it needs a little bit more. I added a pinch of sugar, so it's sweet enough because the wine was really dry. And we're done. Turn the flame off. Welcome back to my kitchen, Helena's Trini Kitchen. Today I've made for you stir-fried asparagus with apples, and I've opted to put the apples separately and the asparagus separately over here. And I've garnished it with the toasted garlic, sliced garlic. Next, I made for you pound plantain and sweet potatoes with garlic, with olive oil and a little bit of milk, like a quarter cup of low-fat milk, which is actually very healthy, by the way. There's no butter in that. And next, I made for you seared wahoo and ono in a wine sauce. And here's the plating. I hope you enjoyed this meal and preparing it and seeing how easy it is to make a meal look beautiful. Bon appetit!